Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you again. I have no voice because I've been sick. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm still gonna go and eat eat a lot of turkey, man. Hopefully, I can actually taste it. Oh my god. Also, ignore this like toothpaste that I got on here. Hey, at least I brushed my teeth, right? Whatever. I am so out of it right now, man. I'm fucked up. I got two basketball plays here. We got college basketball, NBA, and NHL are both off for the holiday. But of course, there is NFL because it's Thanksgiving. And there is one college football game, and it is not the Egg Bowl. I don't know what happened. The Egg Bowl is like always on Thanksgiving. That's Mississippi and Mississippi State, and that got moved to tomorrow's card. So I'm going to figure out what I want to do with college football, by the way, because this is rivalry week, and a lot of the games are on Friday. So I may still do Saturday, like I may still do a Friday night show and talk about the Saturday slate, which is still the bigger slate. So that might be what I do. And then I'll just talk about all the Friday games tomorrow morning, maybe. I don't know. I'll figure it out. And of course, we have NFL tomorrow, too, Black Friday, and all the other sports are back in action. So there's going to be a lot going on. It's going to be annoying for me to have to handicap all this. Today was actually a bit easier. Last night I was 4-2, by the way, and my two losses on the Philadelphia 76ers, fuck them. I can't bet on them, basically. I have to stop betting on the 76ers. Them and Cornell, they missed by a combined 2 points. The 76ers failed to cover by 1.5 points, and Cornell missed by a half point. I think there were plus 10s out there at some point on Cornell, and I had 9.5, and they lost by exactly 10. Pisses me off, man. Started off the day real nice with an easy blowout win with Iowa State, beating Colorado off of that upset of UConn. UConn can't win anymore, by the way. They've lost 3 games in a row. They lost to Dayton badly. That UConn team, I don't know, man. They're not the same team as the last couple of seasons. I don't think they're going to win a championship. I'll just put that out there right now. And then what else did I have? I forget what else I had. Rutgers was the late game. They covered. It was pretty much a wire-to-wire cover, I think, for Rutgers, even though the game got a bit up-tempo, kind of in Alabama's pace. That wound up being a winner. The L.A. Kings beat the Winnipeg Jets, man. I am the soothsayer as far as the Winnipeg Jets are concerned. I pick my spots, and I'm able to figure out when they're going to lose. So that was a winner for me. Hockey just continues to be really good for me, so that was good. What else did I even have last night? I'm missing some of the college basketball. I think I went 3-1 in college basketball, right? So I forget what the other plays were, but whatever it was, there were 2 other wins mixed in there. I don't remember what they were. I could go look, actually, real quick. Can I? I don't even know. What did I have last night? I have it up. Wait, do I have it up? I have Action Network up, actually in both tabs. Let me just see. Because I like to recap. I like to remember my wins, man. What were my wins yesterday? Today, I'm going to have 2 college basketball plays, 1 NFL play, which I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest, but the spot has to put me on this NFL play, man. And I will do a regular NFL show Saturday night as well, talking about the Sunday slate. And I do have 2 NFL plays already on Sunday, and I don't think those lines are going to be any different. So I don't know if I have to talk about them yet, but I did already. I tweeted one out already anyway. What the fuck is up with Action Network, man? Action Network is, like, I go to look at yesterday's performance, and it shows me only my bets that I have today. Man, I like this site. It's one of the best that I've found for bet tracking in it, like interfaces with the sports books for you, so you can like sometimes get like bets placed through it, but sometimes, man, the UI, especially on desktop, it just doesn't work. Oh yeah, Milwaukee was the other play I had. Yeah, Milwaukee covered. Yeah, they lost, but they covered the spread, right? All right. Anyway, let's get to today's slate here. Who do we got? Scott, happy Thanksgiving to you, sir. Spellbound, you as well. Johnny, also to you. This is the degenerate hours, man. Thanksgiving morning, and I got to go to my parents for the annual Thanksgiving thing this afternoon, which hopefully it'll be good given the circumstances, which I tweeted out about that like a week ago or something. Where my aunt is really having some health issues and is in the hospital, and she is a staple of these Thanksgiving festivities and usually hosts Christmas Eve, which that's probably not going to happen this year. It's not great, man. It is not great, and hopefully things will turn around there. All right, let's get to college basketball here. I'm not going to talk about too many of these games, but I will just mention that, of course, West Virginia, if you saw what they did last night in whatever this tournament is, is it the battle for Atlantis? I don't know, whatever it is, this Bahamas tournament. West Virginia, they upset Gonzaga last night, man. I think it went into overtime, so that was a huge upset win for West Virginia. 15.5-point underdog. Overtime. I know this is, the bad boy mowers, battle for Atlantis. They're getting into these, like, bowl type names here. Excuse me, with these stupid sponsors. So I'm like, all right, I want to fade West Virginia off of that massive upset, right? And then I'm looking and I'm like, well, not so fast, because Louisville just pulled off a nice big win over Indiana. I mean, it wasn't as big an upset. They're only a 3.5-point dog, but Louisville blowing out Indiana. I mean, they got to be feeling a little bit plump and gay about themselves as well after that. So I can't do it, man. So I'm just going to stay away from this game. Louisville's up from 2.5 to 3, 67% of tickets and only 55% of the cash. I mean, I would still lean to the Louisville side just because West Virginia played later. They played into overtime, and their upset was more monumental. So that would be the way that I would look in that game, but I'm not going to play that. And if I wanted to play this game, I might look to the over. As I keep saying, when you have two teams that are coming off huge performances like that, and it's a tournament like this, so you know they're still going to have their starters out there on the floor and whatever, you tend to want to look to the over there because their scorers are going to be out there and their defenses are going to be tired. So the total is up from 149 to 150.5, 90% of the tickets and 96% of the cash on the over. So I would agree with the over in that one. I'm trying to remember which game was it that I said was going to go over yesterday. I forget what it was. There were two teams that I thought were coming off of big upset games right yesterday. I don't even remember. I got Michigan State right, by the way, as far as that lean was. I think it was Creighton and Texas A&M. I said that was two teams that were coming off big upsets, I think. Is that right? I don't even know. Or no, it was San Diego State. Sorry. Yeah, it was San Diego State because they were coming off upsetting Creighton. I like to know, man. I like to know if I was right. Yeah, it was them against Oregon. That's right. Did this go over? I don't know. I just want to check real quick. 138.5. Yes. Yeah, it looks, wait, did it? No. Oh, shit. So this one stayed under by what? Like, 1.5 or whatever? Am I doing the math right? Yeah. Anyway. All right, am I doing oh, no, it did go over. What am I saying? I'm not doing the math right there. Yeah, so this went up to, whatever that is. That did go over the total, though. That got up to, 146, right? Am I doing the math right on that? So that did go over. All right, check my math on that. I'm brain damaged. All right, let me get back to college basketball here. Some of these other games, I mean, there's some good games on the slate, but I don't know if I want to hit every one of them because there are just a lot of big matchups today. And I will talk about, the other game in that same tournament, Indiana and Gonzaga, of course, because the opposite of that, Louisville and West Virginia both pulled off upsets against them. They're in like the letdown spot against each other, basically, whereas Indiana and Gonzaga now, they're going to be in like the bounce back spot, but they're up against each other. Gonzaga's down from 10 to 9.5 with 68% of tickets, 99% of the cash. I don't know that I would want to fade Gonzaga here, even though the line has gone down a little bit. They are the better team. And so when you get a team like that that's in bounce back mode, even though they both are, Gonzaga had the more kind of embarrassing upset, even though it was the later game last night. Did go into overtime, but still, it was the bigger of the two upsets, and they are the better team. So I think if they're going to bounce back, if either of these teams is going to bounce back, or if they both are, I would think that Gonzaga would be the team better equipped to do that, let's say, because they are the better of those two teams. So that's the way that I look there. Let's get to my plays here, and then we can go eat some fucking turkey, man. BYU minus 3.5 is going to be the first one. This is one of my patented ranking versus odds disparities. You got Ole Miss is ranked 23rd in the country, but BYU is the favorite, -3.5. So the odds makers are telling you BYU is actually the better team here. I agree with this. BYU sitting at 3.5. You might be able to get a little bit better of a number, actually. It looks like it's gone down to 3.5 with reduced juice, but they got 57% of the cash on them, whereas 61% of the tickets are on the other side on Ole Miss. This is in the Rady Children's Invitational, probably a children's hospital fundraiser in San Diego, California. But you can see that the ticket versus cash disparity looks like it is significantly on the BYU side. This is at 5:30 p.m. our time, so we'll get some Thanksgiving action in there, man. And I like this not just because BYU is the favorite. So the odds makers are telling you they're the better team. Yes, they are. BYU is the better all-around team, man. And BYU, they're somewhat of a faster-paced team, too. They're in the top half of tempo, according to Ken Baum, at least. And they're the better team on both sides of the ball than Mississippi, I believe. Ken Baum has BYU better on both offense and defense. He has Ole Miss as a slower tempo team in the slower half. So if BYU was able to speed this up a little bit, that would be helpful to BYU as well. Both of these teams have actually faced really easy schedules so far. They're both among some of the weakest schedules, strength of schedule, and Ken Baum, both of these teams are. So that's kind of a wash as far as that's concerned, but it just comes down to BYU is the better of these teams right now on both sides of the ball. Ken Baum only has this being a 3-point game, but that's right in that margin. Ken Baum, when it's early season, I think Ken Baum can be off by a little bit more because he has less data collected, and some of it is based on what these teams did last year, although I think he does try to take into account the players that are still there from last year to this year. But still, Ken Baum, I mean, his early season numbers are going to be maybe have a tendency to be a little bit further off than what they are later in the season. But I still think this one's kind of right in line with it. BYU, I mean, they have not faced anybody good so far, so that does worry me a little bit. They've faced an extremely weak schedule so far, and they're coming off beating probably the worst Division I basketball team in Mississippi Valley State, the Delta Devils. But I mean, I'm fine with doing this. BYU, however, they have not left the city of Provo so far. They've played every game in their home arena so far, so that worries me a little bit that now they're playing a game out on the Pacific Coast now. But I'll talk about Ole Miss in a minute and why I think that that's pretty much a wash. But the thing I like about BYU is that they've only had 4 days off. So when you are on a winning streak like this, you do not want to disrupt that momentum, man. You want to keep going. You want to keep playing. And on the other side, Ole Miss, yeah, they have one bigger game under their belt. They beat Colorado State, but Colorado State is actually bad this year. I think Ken Baum has them like not even in the top 100, so that's not really that impressive of a win. It looks more impressive than it was. Ole Miss, I mean, yeah, I know BYU has not left their home arena yet, but Ole Miss has played every game except that Colorado State game in their home arena, and they have not left the state of Mississippi yet. So basically the same, but BYU is only having to go from Mountain Time Zone down to the Pacific. Ole Miss is having to go from whatever, Central down to the Pacific. So I think it's a little bit of a weird spot for Ole Miss to have to go out there to San Diego, leaving the state of Mississippi. I think it's easier for BYU to just go down to the Pacific Coast. BYU's the better team all around, like I said. And Ole Miss, are they going to overlook BYU because they have Louisville up next? I don't know. I mean, Louisville is a bigger name opponent in the ACC, so maybe it is possible. And that game's up in, it's not up for like another 5 days, 6 days or whatever. It's on Tuesday, but I don't know. Who knows if they're going to overlook them, but I just think BYU is the better team. And Ole Miss has had more days off than BYU has. They've had 2 more days off, and I think that extended time off is not going to help them because when you're on a roll like this, like I said, you do not want to stop your momentum. You want to keep playing. So I think that's bad for Ole Miss as well. So I'm going to take BYU or lay the points with BYU. And then my other play is going to be, I was looking to play this one, man, and I missed the best numbers, and I'm pissed about it. UC-Irvine -10.5. I could have gotten 8 on this, and I think Ken Baum has this at like 9. So it's a little bit off from where the line is. The money has come in, and I don't want to steam chase here. It's up to 11 now. I did see the cash disparity on Irvine a little while ago. Now I see it on Kennesaw on the other side, but I think this was legitimate movement coming in on Irvine, man. I mean, I don't think it's a setup. I mean, the public is not coming in and playing this game. So I just think that the action that you see coming in on this game, I think is just correct, like professional action. Kennesaw does have 61% of tickets, but 76% of the cash now. But like I said, I saw the cash percentage on Irvine a little while ago, and that would only make sense because how could the cash be more so on the Kennesaw State side if we've seen Irvine move up 3 points? It's now up to 11. I think there are 10.5 still out there. I'm pissed because I was looking at this game since Kennesaw upset Rutgers. I wanted to play this game. I wanted to play Irvine, and I could have gotten 8 or 9 like overnight basically or last night, but I think this line moved up fast, man. So I'm kind of pissed about it, but I still like the spot here. Irvine is the significantly better team according to Ken Palm. Ken Palm, like I said, he only has them winning by 9, I think, but he's got Irvine at 63rd in the country. They play in the top 100 in tempo, even though they actually are the 41st ranked defense as well. They face like a reasonably difficult schedule so far. Kennesaw has faced a significantly less strong schedule at 223, whereas Irvine, I think, is like 170 something. So Irvine has faced a tougher opponent so far. He's got Irvine, what did I say, in the 60s, and he's got Kennesaw State all the way down at 169. He does have Kennesaw at 7 in tempo, so they really like to run the ball, but they're really bad defensively. Offensively, they're not that great, and I'll mention something else about that in a minute. They're sloppy, let's say. They're a sloppy team, so I don't even know how they won that game against Rutgers, to be honest. So you got Irvine is just a significantly better team, man. And I think that this line, if like the public is coming in and looking at this game, they're going to think, wait a minute, double digits, and you got a 5-1 team against a 5-0 team. Like, that line looks insane for, even though it's the undefeated team. How are they laying 10.5 or 11 points against a team that just beat Rutgers, right, who was a ranked team? Well, okay, but like I said, Ken Palm is telling you Irvine is the better team all around. Kennesaw, I mean, the win against Rutgers, I think it's not as good for multiple reasons. Rutgers was way overrated coming into that game. I mean, Ken Palm has them nowhere close to being a top 25 team. He has them at 72nd in the country, so that ranking was way off there. I don't expect Rutgers to ever get back into the top 25, even though these rankings, people are crazy, so you never know. But I think that win looks less good because Rutgers did not deserve anywhere close to that ranking. Kennesaw pulled off the win as an 11.5-point underdog, so they're in a letdown spot now because they're coming off a big win. As you can see right here in this video, I mean, they were celebrating that win. That was a huge win in front of their home crowd. I think the crowd probably rushed the court because for Kennesaw, for a program like that, you beat a ranked team like this, even though they're undeservedly ranked. You beat a Big Ten team, you're going to rush the court, so I'm pretty sure they did. Despite all the people trying to prevent court rushing from happening anymore, court storming from happening anymore because of the Filipowski thing from last year. That was pretty gay, man. Filipowski, kind of annoying. Rutgers, I mean, Kennesaw was dominating this entire game, dude. And Rutgers still was able to make a huge comeback and almost win the game still. They got back to within 2 at the end of the game after Kennesaw dominated this game. And Kennesaw dominated on the boards. But like I said, I just don't think Rutgers is that good a team. Rutgers had a really bad shooting performance, 39.4%. I mean, I don't expect Irvine to shoot as badly as that overall from the floor. And look at this turnover disparity, man. Kennesaw lost the turnover battle at home, 22-9. How do you even win a game when you lose the turnover battle by you're minus 13 in turnovers? And doing that at home is ridiculous. I don't know how. Like, usually the home team wins the turnover battle, and to lose it by 13 is crazy. And to still win the game, that's just insane. This was just a really wild game. At Kennesaw, they are not great at holding on to the ball, man. So if they're going to be turning the ball over, that's going to be a problem in a game like this, which, by the way, is in the Western Slam, I believe is what this is called, out in San Diego, whatever the hell that is. But that's what this is out there. Oh, wait, this is not, I thought this was in San Diego. It's not. This is in Lethbridge, Alberta. What am I even saying? Really? That makes even less sense. Oh, no, the other game that I talked about was in San Diego. Never mind. Yeah, this is in. All right, BYU is playing in San Diego. I'm going crazy here, man. This game is in Alberta, up in Canada. So this is just wild, man. So Kennesaw, I mean, looking at their schedule, I don't know if they've left like the southern U.S. this year, right? They did play at Cal Baptist, I guess. So they did go out to. They did play in California there, I guess. That was in Riverside, California. So they did go out west for that one. Other than that, they've been in, I believe, in the state of Georgia, and in this one was at home. But I think they did have one game in Alabama, I thought, but I could be wrong about that. But this is going to be a weird travel spot for Kennesaw to have to go up there, man. Whereas Irvine, at least it's less of a time zone disparity from that for them, and they were actually just in the Mountain Time Zone. They got a nice win over Weber State there, but I don't know if they're going to really care about that. I think that's just going to continue their momentum there. So I think that's a momentum continuing win, whereas Kennesaw, they're coming off a monumental win for that program, man. I mean, they're in a letdown spot. It just comes down to that, the fact that it's a letdown spot. So give me UC-Irvine, I guess, up in Alberta, Canada, up there. UC-Irvine's more used to playing in high elevation, too, man, because they just played in the mountains against Weber State. So they're already adjusted to playing in mountainous territory, whereas Kennesaw is not. So give me Irvine for all those reasons, even though it's at minus 10.5 now. Hopefully they just blow them out. What's up, Pistolero? I got to do this show, man. Jose is streaming as well. We're streaming, simultaneous streaming, man. We're crossing the streams, me and Jose. That's pretty gay. All right, let's get to college football. There's only one college football game here, and I'm not playing it, but this is Memphis at Tulane. Tulane is up from 12.5 to 13.5. Total down from 55 to 54. On the side, we have Tulane with 51% of the tickets, but 66% of the cash on Memphis. I'm not sure if I agree that that's where the cash is, because you can see the line has moved up on Tulane, and I've heard some professionals making the case for Tulane, and I can't really disagree with them. The total has gone down, like I said, 88% of tickets and only 81% of the cash on the over, so I think maybe some actual movement on the under in this one. But this is a situation where you look at these two teams, man, and Tulane is actually up in the rankings now at 17, coming from out of nowhere, getting into the rankings, and I'll talk about that in a minute, why I think that's going to be an extra motivator for Tulane here. But I think just in general, the public's going to look at this game, and this is the game we get on Thanksgiving now, by the way. We don't get the Egg Bowl anymore. We get this last game of the regular season in the American Athletic Conference. But these are two decent teams at the very least. But, I mean, that's what I was about to say. You get these two teams that are both 9-2, and Tulane is laying almost 2 touchdowns in this game. So I think the public might come in and look at this and think, well, wait a minute. Like, both of these teams are 9-2. This should be a pretty competitive game, right? So how am I getting 2 touchdowns on Memphis? And even though they're going to see that, well, Tulane is ranked now, so maybe that will kind of tone down that public perception a little bit, but they do know the Memphis name. But I'm going to tell you right now, Tulane is the significantly better team out of these two. Memphis has faced a very, very weak schedule. Memphis, anytime they've stepped up in class at all, they lost. They lost at Navy. I mean, beating Florida State, whatever. Florida State has been awful this year. And then the second best team they faced this year, I think, was UTSA, and they lost that game too. So Memphis, they have not faced a difficult schedule. When they've been challenged really at all, they've lost the game. Whereas Tulane has faced a more difficult schedule than they have in Tulane. Their only 2 losses are against Kansas State and Oklahoma. And we just saw Oklahoma, I mean, they're good enough that they beat Alabama and crushed Alabama's dreams, which may be something I'm going to talk about this weekend. So those are not bad losses for Tulane. They played those games competitively, man. They lost by 7 to Kansas State and lost by 15 to Oklahoma. I mean, that's not bad. They beat Louisiana, who has a really good offense. They beat Navy in their last game 35-0 on the road. But I know Navy was just spiraling at that point. I mean, Navy, after they lost their first game to Notre Dame, that's just sent them in like pretty much a tailspin. But still, Tulane is a legit team, man. This Tulane team, they can really run the ball. And Memphis does not have a very good defense. So I think Tulane is going to have no problem moving the football here. And the only question is, are they going to be motivated? So that's the question here. Because Memphis, is Memphis going to be motivated to try to like crush Tulane's dreams or whatever? I don't really think so. Because what dream does Tulane have? Well, I think Tulane, maybe they think they have an outside shot at maybe making the playoff field because they're sitting at ranked 17. And if they wind up undefeated in the American Conference and they wind up winning the conference championship with an undefeated record in the conference, they could make the case that they should be in the playoff. So I think they do have reason to show up for this game for that reason. And it's also senior night, and they're hosting a game on ESPN on Thanksgiving. So that's not something that this Tulane program does a lot. You get an isolated game on a holiday on the big network on ESPN on Thanksgiving at home. I think that's a big spot for Tulane with the spotlight on them. I think for all those reasons, Tulane is going to show up focused, even though otherwise, if this was like just a normal regular season finish, I might think maybe less so of that. But still, it is also senior night for them. Like I said, it's their final home game. That's usually an extra motivator because you want to send those seniors off on the right note. Also, like I said, they're trying to play to get into the playoff field potentially. And other than that, though, I would say the one thing that maybe I would worry about a little bit is that Tulane is already in the American Athletic Championship. It's going to be Tulane against Army. There's only one game left, so both of those teams are 2 games ahead of everybody else. So Tulane and Army are both already in the American Athletic Championship game. So normally I would say, yeah, that's a situation where you might be not fully focusing on this game. You might be looking ahead to that. But for all the reasons I just stated, I don't think Tulane is going to be taking their foot off the gas here. If they really think they can make the playoff, and that plus all those other motivational aspects I just said, I still think Tulane will show up for this game. And if they do, they are the better team. The line looks a little bit weird, being a 2-touchdown line with both teams being similar in record. So I would look to lay the points with Tulane here if I was going to play this game. Dirty Sock, what's up? Andrew, thanks for checking in, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Good to meet you as well, man. Thanks for hanging out. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you as well. Mitch, to you as well. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving, man. And let's try to win some money on top of that. As I've been doing pretty well recently, man. Another decent night last night. I've had a couple of bad days in there, but 4 of the last 6 have been pretty good. Let's talk about NFL. You know that's why you're here. NFL, we got this is the Thursday NFL slate, man. And college basketball starts in an hour, and NFL starts in an hour and a half with Bears-Lions is the first game up. Lions are down from 11.5 to 9.5 with juice. 83% of the tickets and 81% of the cash. So the market indicators are indicating against the Lions here, as that line has dropped and it's gone basically through a kind of key number of 10. Lions very public. I mean, obviously the public's going to come in on the Lions. They like what they've seen out of the Lions all year. Like, why would you fade the Lions? We're just putting up ridiculous point totals and whatever. And the Lions have a little bit less of the cash. So market read is definitely on the Bears side there. The total is down from 48.5 to 48 with 85% of tickets and 79% of the cash on the over. So market indicators also on the under. I am not so sure that I would agree with the under in this one. I do think that Bears and under are probably correlated in this game, because if you think that the game is going to be low scoring, then you probably are liking the Bears to cover this number, because it's a big number, and the Bears, they're good on defense. Their offense isn't very good, but they're good on defense. So if you expect the Bears to be hanging in this game, you might expect this game to be a little bit low scoring. But I don't know. I would push back on that a little bit, because Chicago, I mean, since they made that switch to their new offensive coordinator, who we know he likes to run the ball, trying to take the pressure off of Caleb Williams, their offense has actually been significantly better since they made that switch, which was in this game. It doesn't look that great. They only put up 19 points against Green Bay, but their offense was better in that game. And then they put up 27 against Minnesota. So this Bears offense has been a little bit better. So I don't think I would want to play the under in this game, man. I might actually lean to the over, even though I know it's going to be a square play, and it looks like it is. But this total's not that high and you're looking at a game, it's going to be in a dome. I think the Bears offense may be actually getting a little bit undervalued and not taking into account the fact that the Bears offense has been a little bit better recently, and the fact that Detroit has a lot of defensive injuries now, man. I mean, we know they're without Hutchinson, they're without Anzalone. They got a couple other guys banged up there. This Detroit defense, I mean, they're not like a great defense. They're pretty good against the run, but I think that this Detroit defense, at some point, they got to be suffering from those injuries a little bit, man. So even though, yes, if Detroit's good against the run, that's a good matchup for Detroit against a Bears team that's going to try to run the ball. The Bears, they're not a very good rushing attack, though, man, with Swift. Like, he's had some good yardage numbers, but that's just because the bulk like gives him so many touches that you're seeing him like run it like they run it like 25, 30 times a game and put up like 100 yards on the ground. So like the over 100 yards looks good, but then you're looking at the yards per play. It's not very good, but still that's what Chicago's trying to do. They're trying to ground and pound to some extent to take the load off of Caleb Williams, and it has helped Williams' numbers. His numbers weren't that bad in these last two games, and Detroit is a little bit weaker against the pass. So, I don't know, but I would obviously not say that the passing attack is Chicago's offensive strength, though. So it is still Chicago's weakness on offense, and their offensive line is still not very good at protecting either. So I would still say the Bears' offensive weakness lines up against the Detroit offensive weakness, but I think that the line is still not accounting for the Detroit defensive injuries enough, or Chicago having the new offensive coordinator there. So I could see Chicago getting enough points in this game to get this game to go over. As far as the side, I would really hesitate to take the points with the Bears here, man, because look at what the Bears have done recently, even though I know, like I said, they've improved offensively, but those are also step-up games for them, man. They played Green Bay, and they lost this game. I played this game. The Bears covered for me, and they were winning the game. They were about to win the game. They gave up a touchdown late, fell behind, and then they got themselves in position for a game-winning field goal, and it was blocked. So they were that close to having that huge division win against Green Bay. So that's a type of loss that might rip your heart out, man. And then they played another ridiculous game against Minnesota, where it looked like they were dead in this game, and they came back. I had said that I kind of leaned to the Minnesota side in this one because of that like heart-wrenching loss that they had suffered the previous game. And then what do they go do? Oh, they have another heart-wrenching loss because they have a game where they're down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They come all the way back. They're down 11 in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. They're still able to come back. I think they must have gotten a touchdown, recovered an onside kick, gotten a field goal to do all that to tie the game, and then they still lost on a field goal in overtime against another big divisional opponent in Minnesota there. So if you're Chicago, are you really going to be able to play 3 step-up games in a row like that? And now it's a short turnaround time, even though I know you're used to playing at Detroit, but Caleb Williams is not. I don't believe Caleb Williams has played a Thursday game yet, right? So I would be a little bit concerned about that. It's the same thing I said with Jaden Daniels in his first quick turnaround time game playing on Thursday. You got a rookie quarterback going into that environment. That would worry me a little bit. So I really don't want any part of the Bears in this game. And this game is finally on the road, whereas those other 2 games are at home. They haven't been on the road since this game against Arizona. So that worries me a little bit too. And the Bears are 0-4 on the road, even though, yes, they have not done that badly. I mean, they've only lost by 1 score in every one of those except the Arizona one, but still they are 0-4 on the road. And the other thing here is Detroit. I mean, Detroit's just cruising along, so they just kind of have momentum right now. I think it's going to be easier for them to turn around on a quick turnaround time here, being at home. I think Detroit has the better coach, Dan Campbell. I mean, he's definitely proven himself. He has a really good record and a really good against the spread record since he's been there as well. However, his record is not very good on Thanksgiving games, which I'll mention in a second. Detroit, like I said, they're coming off another easy win over Indianapolis, and that was one where they didn't really light up the scoreboard in that one. So I think that's just kind of that was a bad spot, too. I played Indy in that one because I was like, well, Detroit's coming off just a mega 52-point performance, and they got this Thanksgiving game up on a quick turnaround time. I thought they were going to overlook Indy, and they didn't even do it. So Detroit, they've been in a couple of bad spots and they still show up for these games. So, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. And it was a bad spot in this Houston game, too, and they still were able to come back and win that game, too. So, this Detroit team, I mean, they do have guts. I mean, they're definitely playing with a sense of purpose here, and they got the momentum. So, I would not want to step in front of this train, for one thing, even though, yes, they do have Green Bay up next. So, they did already beat Green Bay once. And the main reason why I don't think they're going to be unfocused here is what I just said. Thursday, Thanksgiving, Detroit has lost their last 7 games on Thanksgiving, and under the Campbell era, they're 0-3 on Thanksgiving. So I think they're going to want this game, man. They have not won a Thanksgiving game for the home crowd in a long time. And granted, we know that Detroit was terrible for a lot of those years, so they were an underdog in many of those games. And even for the Campbell era, Detroit was actually an underdog in the first 2 of those games, and I think they actually covered as the underdog in both of those and still lost. And what happened last year, Detroit was finally a favorite. I think they were like a 7-point favorite last year on Thanksgiving, and they lost to Jordan Love and Green Bay. Detroit had a really messy game. They turned it over 3 times. They basically just handed the game over to Green Bay. They were losing the game bad, and they got back to within 7, but they didn't win. So I think all of that is going to be a motivator for Detroit here. I mean, they remember what happened last year. All these guys were there pretty much. They don't want that to happen again. They made way too many mistakes in that game. You got Dan Campbell here, man. I think he's going to fix some shit here. So even though, yes, you do have Chicago getting points as the better defense, yes, the line is big, but I don't want to touch Chicago in this game, man. Even though the market read does look like it's on the Chicago side, I don't want to do it. The spot doesn't look good for it to me. I would potentially maybe lean the other way, especially with the line. If it's at 9.5, you're not going to find me taking the points with Chicago here. What's up, everybody? Everybody's in the chat, baby. Nate, happy Thanksgiving. Tommy, you too. Reasonable man. Yeah, I'm screaming to the void. I got 8. My levels are always low, man. I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't know what I need to do about this because my gain is all the way up here, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm basically at the point where I'm popping on my device here, so I don't know if I can, like, yeah, my gain is all the way up on my, what is it? My focus right here. So I do have a dynamite stick, but that makes me, like, way overpowering, and it sounds like absolute ass. So I don't know what to do about this. I don't know how my levels are this low, man. I'm going to have to figure something out here. And then I have it turned up. Oh, whoops. Stop sharing my screen there. Hang on. I have it turned up in StreamYard as well, so I don't know. Whatever. Let me get to these other games here because I do have a play in the night game. The second game up, yeah, good luck with this game. Giants-Cowboys. Cowboys are up from 2.5 to 3.5 with 84% of the tickets, 85% of the cash. The total, I mean, is down from 40 to 37.5, juice to the under. 76% of the tickets, but 79% of the cash on the over. I don't do a lot with totals, but I will just say that I think that this is an overreaction, in my opinion, to how bad the Giants have looked recently and probably to how bad the Cowboys have looked recently, too, even though the Cowboys finally had a good game last week. But I think this is an overreaction to these teams both being without their quarterbacks. So we know Daniel Jones is gone. We know Dak Prescott is gone. So this total has gotten so low that I would actually look to start going the other way on this and maybe look to play an over here. Because Giants, here's the thing, man. Tommy DeVito, I mean, he didn't even play that badly, actually, last week against Tampa. It's just, it did not translate into points, but his numbers were not that bad. Tommy Cutlets, but he's gone, and the Giants are actually going to be starting Drew Lock. And Drew Lock is a guy that has some NFL experience, man. He hasn't played yet in this system, but I think he's going to have something to prove. If you got Drew Lock going out there, man, he finally gets a chance to do something. He wants to go out there and prove himself. He does not want to play bad. He wants to go out there and show himself there. And then Cooper Rush for the Cowboys. I mean, he had a rough couple of games, but he hasn't been that bad when he's played with the Cowboys, and he finally had a decent game last week. So I think that maybe this total is just a little bit too low at this point, man. The Giants, they can at least run the ball a bit too since they've been using Tracy, and the Cowboys, they're not good against the run. So the Giants can probably get something going on the ground a little bit, take the load off Lock a little bit here. Dallas, I mean, they still have a lot of skill players on their offense. I think Brandon Cooks might be coming back here. So the problem with the Cowboys is they can't run the ball at all. But Cooper Rush is going to have some very talented wide receiver targets at the very least here. And the Cowboys' defense, as I've been pointing out, is just not that good. They have a good pass rush, but other than that, their defense is not very good. So the Giants may be able to put up some points as well here. So I think that this is, say it with my chest. I don't want to overpower my voice, though, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could put my chest into it a little bit and try to just like talk like this. Cooper Rush is injured. As far as I know, he's playing, though. Although we can check on that. If he doesn't play, I don't even know who their backup is going to be. But, I mean, we will see, I guess. But I think the total's a little bit too low. So at that point, I would start looking to maybe actually take the over in that one. But I'm going to have more of a lean on the side in this one, and I actually lean to the Giants' side in this one. I mean, it is definitely an anti-public side at the very least, even though it looks like more of the cash is on the Cowboys, and it's driven the number up. But this number was actually at 4, and I think once it hit 4, some of the professionals came in and took the Giants at +4 because those 4s disappeared. I wouldn't oppose taking 3.5 with the Giants either, though. I think Drew Lock is going to have something to prove. I don't think he's that bad. He does have experience. The thing about the Giants is that they lose to the Cowboys all the time, man. So you might say, well, aren't the Cowboys going to be motivated because they're... Oh, yeah, Trey Lance. That's right. Yeah, I forgot they had Trey Lance. Yeah, I think Rush is still going to play. He was banged up last week, too, and he still played. So I expect Rush will be the quarterback. But you might say, well, wait a minute. The Cowboys are going to be motivated, right, because they are playing on Thanksgiving. I would push back on that because I think that they host Thanksgiving every year, man. So this is not new to them. They always play on Thanksgiving. Yeah, their against the spread record is actually not very good on Thanksgiving at home, but maybe that's a trend that would put you on the Giants more. I don't know. But the Cowboys, I think they have won multiple of these Thanksgiving games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. I forget. Like, I remember them beating Washington pretty easily not that long ago, and I forget what else. But the Cowboys, I don't think that that's a huge motivator, man, at this point, playing on Thanksgiving. For the Lions, I think it is, because in the Dan Campbell era, they haven't gotten a win yet at all. The Cowboys, they've won on Thanksgiving in the McCarthy era. I really don't think they care as much. And how can they care that much when their opponent is the New York Giants with basically like a third-string quarterback in there? Do you really think the Cowboys are going to have full focus on the New York Giants? I mean, the Cowboys dominate the Giants, man. They've owned this series. So I think that's more of a motivating factor for the Giants because the Giants don't beat the Cowboys very often. So I think the Giants are going to show up for this game. The Giants don't play on Thanksgiving very often, man. The last time they won a game on Thanksgiving was in the 1980s in a game where Lawrence Taylor, I believe it was a game against the Lions hosting the Thanksgiving game where Lawrence Taylor, I think, had a pick 6 that won the game, if I remember correctly, or something like that. LT, baby, the older LT, the OG LT, not LaDainian Tomlinson. So the Giants may be motivated for all of that because they don't get to do this very often. They don't get to play on Thanksgiving often. So I think that the Giants are actually going to be the more motivated team here for those reasons. And because look at what the Giants just did in their last game. They just got massacred by Tampa Bay. So I think they're going to want to bounce back from that. I mean, you don't want to get embarrassed like that. And now you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, the team that has owned you for years at this point. So I expect the Giants to show up for those reasons. And this Tampa Bay score, I mean, like I said, I don't think it was as lopsided as maybe it looked. Well, the yardage total does actually say that it was, so maybe it was pretty lopsided. I don't know, but I thought that what's his face, DeVito, well, actually he only had 189 yards. I thought he had in the 200s, but I don't know. To me, it didn't seem like his numbers were that bad in this game. I don't know, but it's going to be Drew Lock time now, so who knows? But I do expect that the Giants will show up motivated in this game. And for Dallas, I question Dallas, man, because look at what they came off of. They finally broke that huge loss streak. So you might say, well, now, since they've won again, that's going to be momentum moving forward. And I might agree with that maybe that's a momentum starter. But look at what they just did, man. They just won in that insane game against Washington as a 10.5-point underdog. They beat Washington. And this was a game where Everybody was missing field goals, extra points. Everything was being missed all over the place. It was just, this game was complete insanity. 31 points were scored, I think, in the fourth quarter. Or not just the fourth quarter, I think in the final a couple minutes alone. I mean, this game was absolutely insane. Dallas was up 11 late in the game. Then Washington got back into it again with a touchdown. Dallas, in the final 3 minutes of the game now, Dallas returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Then Washington got a field goal from 51 yards out to cut it back to 7. I believe Washington either got the ball back, obviously, but I don't remember if it was an onside kick or not that they recovered. They got the touchdown, which should have tied the game, but instead it was another PAT miss. So then they were down 1, so they had to onside kick it again, and Dallas returned the onside kick for a touchdown. The ending to that game was completely insane, man. But it was a huge win for Dallas. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that will help them start some new, winning momentum in the Cooper Rush era, but I don't know, man. I think it might be more of a letdown spot after that. That was a huge win. Dallas, they know they're a dead team, man. I mean, they're not going to get into the playoffs. I think they know this. I mean, they have a couple winnable games left on their schedule, sure, but I think they know that really what they have left to play for is they're going to step up in games that matter to them, like this Philadelphia game and this Washington game. They might show up for those two games just to try to ruin those team seasons or whatever the case may be, because those are big divisional rivals. But this is a divisional game, but this is the one team that's below them in the division and the one team that they've owned completely in the division recently. So I don't think Dallas is going to be that excited for this. On a short turnaround time, I also don't trust Mike McCarthy at all. He's not a good coach, man. And I saw some stat that Dallas, this year, they're the worst team in the NFL in the third quarter. As far as the point spread in the third quarter specifically is concerned, Dallas is 2-9 against the third quarter point spread. So that means McCarthy is a terrible coach at halftime adjustments. He's not good, man. I mean, he's got to get his ass fired. It's going to happen at some point, but I don't trust him. And the one thing that was going to put me on the Giants, I was going to play the Giants because I thought that Dayball got fired in this game, man. So I was going to play the Giants in the fired coach spot, but apparently that was just a false report or something. So he was not fired. So he is still there. So I'm not going to do it, but I saw a report that said that they fired him and their GM, Shane. I don't know if Shane got fired, but Shane sucks. I mean, he should get fired. Dayball probably should get fired too, but he has not been fired for this. So I will just stay away. But as far as the situational handicapping that I do, I lean to taking the points with the Giants in this one, man. Both of these games, though, I I don't really want anything to do with these games. Jerry Jones, he wants to bring McCarthy back. What does McCarthy have on Jerry Jones, man? McCarthy must be blackmailing him, because I can't understand at all how he hasn't been fired by now. He must have like Jerry Jones on Epstein Island or something like that. There's got to be something going on there. Yeah, Dallas has owned the Giants. Barkley was 0-10 against Dallas. Yeah, that was Barkley's first win against Dallas. It took him being on the Eagles to do it. Oh, and by the way, Daniel Jones, he was released, as you guys mentioned last week, and it looks like Daniel Jones is now going to be on the Minnesota Vikings. So that's insane as well, that Daniel Jones is going to be on a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs. It's so ridiculous, man. Oh, man. I don't know, but I don't know if I have anything else to say about this game specifically, but it is a short turnaround time. But the thing about that is that I always say this about these Thursday games, man. If it's a divisional game, it's less of a problem for the road team. Like the road team, if they're not going into a familiar environment, they tend to have more of a problem having the quick turnaround time. But with the Giants, you play in Dallas every year. You're used to playing in Dallas. So I don't think the turnaround time matters as much because it's a venue that's familiar to you. And by the way, Dallas is 0-5 at home. They haven't even won a game straight up at home this year. Although you might say, well, that'll motivate them, right? Because they know that they haven't won at home. Maybe, but I think it's also a trend. They're just bad at home. So take from that what you will, but Dallas has not been good at home. I will say Dallas has faced a very difficult schedule, though. They faced Baltimore. They faced New Orleans when New Orleans was still totally intact. Pittsburgh, Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta, Philly, Houston, Washington. Yeah, I mean, they've had one of the most difficult schedules in the NFL, so I will give you that. that Dallas's record maybe should be better than it is, but in a lot of these games, they just got absolutely annihilated, though. So I don't know, man. I mean, Baltimore was actually blowing them out, too. New Orleans blew them out. Detroit blew them out. Philadelphia blew them out. Houston blew them out in what should have been a bad spot for Houston and a decent spot for Dallas to show up and play on Monday night, and they still didn't do it. So if being on prime time isn't going to motivate you, is playing the Giants on Thanksgiving going to motivate you? I don't know, man. It's a little bit questionable. So I think that's all I got. I thought there was one more thing I was going to say about this game, but I forget what it was. Maybe not. But those are all my thoughts about that game. But I do have a play. I'll give you my one NFL play in the final game. I know this is not going to seem great. Miami Dolphins plus 3.5. I think there are 3.5s and 3s out there right now. Obviously, the 3.5 is preferable here, but the line looks like it's 3.5 down to 3.5 with reduced juice. So I think it's somewhere in between the two. The Packers are going to be public. 65% of the tickets and 64% of the cash. Even though I know the Dolphins have that intact offense, I still think the public is they're still swayed by overall records, man, and they still like the Jordan Love phenomenon. They like him at home. They like Green Bay at home. They're still looking at it's an 8-3 Packers team against a 5-6 Dolphin team. So the public's going to still like the Packers for all those reasons. And what's the thing that we keep hearing about over and over? Tua cannot win in cold weather. That's the narrative. Tua sucks in cold weather. We saw it again last year. Yeah, Tua, I know, I went against the Dolphins in the playoffs last year. I had Kansas City in that game, but that was a unique situation where that was the coldest game in NFL history, I'm pretty sure. It was like wind chills were like -20 to -30 in that game at Kansas City in the playoffs. Yeah, that was a really difficult game for either team to have any offense going. Trust me, man, if this was going to be like that, this total would not be at 47.5, all right? The total's at 47.5, so the odds makers are telling you the weather is not going to be not going to have that much of an impact on the offense here. This is just a normal kind of cold weather game, I would say. 69% of tickets, 73% of the cash on the over, by the way. I have no read on the total in this one at all, but I mean, you still might be getting a little bit of value on the over because because I still think the Dolphins, we're looking at their entire season numbers, man, and without Tua, their offensive numbers are significantly worse than with them, which is to be expected, but I still think that's having an impact on the line on them, man. So I wouldn't necessarily mind playing an over here, but the public's also going to be coming in on the over, especially when it's the night game, and if they lose money on the first couple of games, they're going to want to try to make their money back, and they're probably going to come in and go, oh, Jordan Love against Tua. Give me the over here. So I don't want to touch the over here, but I wouldn't say that it's the worst idea necessarily. It does look like the cash percentage is actually coming in on it, but I prefer the Dolphins side. I think this is a bad situation for the Packers, man, which I will get to in a second because that's the whole reason why I'm doing this. But yeah, Tua, we know this. He's not good. He's 0-6 in games that are below freezing or below 40 degrees. We know that, but he got that game. He played in the most extreme cold possible last year in that Kansas City game. So I think that's at least going to help him get used to it a little bit more. He keeps hearing this over and over again. Tua, Miami, they can't win in cold weather. Yeah. All right, whatever. Yeah, that game was so extreme. It's going to make this game seem like normal weather because that game was like 0, like I said, and it was -20 to -30. Wind chill in that game. This game, 26 degrees with potentially a little bit of snow, but Green Bay, they got a heated field, which I think is kind of annoying. It's not the frozen tundra anymore. I think all of this is lame, by the way. I do think they should be playing snow games. Like that one in Cleveland last week was awesome. So I'm kind of opposed to that, but that is what we're looking at here. Green Bay has a heated field, so this is not going to be like that Kansas City game, man. Yes, it's going to be cold. Yes, it might snow a little bit. Yes, the lake effect might make this a little bit colder than it actually is. I don't know how much wind comes into Lambeau, though, as far as like how open the stadium is, because it's not really that open. But, yeah, you might have some lake effect. Cold. It is going to be at night. Yes, it's definitely going to be cold. But I think the situation is so bad for Green Bay that I'm going to counteract that, and I'm going to play Miami here. Green Bay, I mean, yeah, Green Bay, they've played well recently. They've looked really good, so the public is only going to want to come in on Green Bay. Their only losses this season are that weird Brazil game against Philadelphia, Minnesota, although I think Minnesota's still a little bit overrated, to be honest. That was Jordan Love's first game back from injury, so it was the reverse injured player spot for Green Bay. And then Green Bay lost this weird bad weather game to Detroit, but hey, man, bad weather, and they didn't play well at home. And you would think that Green Bay should have the advantage when it's bad weather at home. That still didn't happen. That was kind of a cool, rainy game there, and they still lost to Detroit. So I know Detroit's good. Detroit's better than Miami, fine. But still, I mean, I'm just looking at what Green Bay has done here. But the reason why I will fade Green Bay here is look at the spot that they're in, man. They just beat San Francisco, and I know it was San Francisco with Brandon Allen. Yes, I know this. Brandon Allen, I mean, he's not Brock Purdy. I don't think Brock Purdy is really necessarily that great, though, in my opinion. Brandon Allen, yeah, I mean, he's not good. He wasn't good in this game, really. And, yeah, Green Bay won this game. Jordan Love wasn't really doing anything in this game either, though. A lot of it was Jacobs on the ground. Love only had 163 yards through the air in this game. San Francisco was just a mess. They had 3 turnovers in the game, so Green Bay, the score might look a little bit more lopsided than the game actually was because Green Bay was +3 in turnovers. So this game might not be what it appeared to be, but also San Francisco, I mean, they're not as good this year, man. They're the cursed Super Bowl loser, man. The Super Bowl loser a lot of times has a bad season after that. They're cursed. San Francisco just has so many injuries this year, man, and they just have not been able to get it together. So I think that win isn't as good as it looks, but also it's still a huge win for Green Bay because that was playoff revenge. As I mentioned, Green Bay, we know what happened last year. They went into San Francisco and lost. San Francisco was the team that ended their season. You know that Green Bay remembers that. So that was a huge win for Green Bay. Playoff revenge. You not only playoff revenge, but you blow out the team that knocked you out last year, the 49ers. You got to be feeling real plump and gay after that, man. So I think that makes it a letdown spot for Green Bay. Now they get this out-of-conference game that may matter a little bit less to them. And who do they have up next? Oh, yeah, they have to go to Detroit next. That was one of their losses, and that's one of the teams that they're battling with in the division. They do not want to lose twice to Detroit, man. They need to even up the score against Detroit. That is a huge game for Detroit. Do you really think they're going to be having full focus on Miami here when they just got playoff revenge against the 49ers? Another conference foe there, and they got this massive game against Detroit coming up next. I don't think so. I think this is a sandwich spot. And yes, I know it is a Thanksgiving game. Green Bay does not host the Thanksgiving night game very often, but Green Bay, they played on Thanksgiving last year, man, and they won, and they upset Detroit. So they won on Thanksgiving last year, and a lot of these players are still there for that. Jordan Love was there. That was like Jordan Love's coming out party. So do you really think Green Bay is going to really care that much about playing Miami on Thanksgiving when they had a bigger Thanksgiving game last year and won it as a road underdog at Detroit? I'm not so sure about that. I mean, this game's surrounded by much, much bigger games. I don't really think so. And then, yeah, the other thing you have to worry about is, yes, this is a quick turnaround time. I understand that Green Bay, they do have to go. Green Bay is not traveling. They do stay at home. Miami has to go to Green Bay. I understand that when you're going to an unfamiliar environment on a quick turnaround time, it is a negative. But in this case, I think the spot is just really bad for Green Bay, man. And Miami, I think they have to continue to be focused here. This is a Miami team that once Tua came back, everything out of the locker room has been saying, we're still alive. We can still make the playoffs, which is true. They can still make the playoffs here. They're still alive for a wild card. So I think Miami, they're not going to let up, man. I mean, they have this right in front of them. They have a lot of winnable games remaining on their slate here. This one is one of the more difficult ones, but still, they're also getting to play on a primetime game on Thursday night, so I don't think they're going to be unfocused here at all, man. And they have a chance to get to 500 if they win this game. I think Miami is absolutely going to be focused. I think they have more motivation in this game than Green Bay does because Miami is fighting for their lives, basically, here. And they need to win a lot of these remaining games. And it's not a must-win, and they're getting points as the underdog. So when you have a team that you think is definitely going to be motivated and they're the underdog getting points, that's also a good situation to do it. it's more, the pressure is more on if that team is like a favorite in a must-win scenario. So that's where it gets to the point where you don't really necessarily want to play that team, but as an underdog, if you're going to get a full motivated effort from that team, yeah, you do want to play on a team in a spot like that. And yes, Miami did just play at home. They really have not played too many cold weather games, maybe only this one. They did go up to Buffalo, and they did play pretty well in this game. This was, I believe this was a somewhat cold weather game. I don't see what the weather was there, but I think it was probably 30s or 40s there. So, yeah, they lost the game. That was a cool weather game, but at least they did play that game. They went up to Buffalo in October, so they at least did do that. So they've played one kind of outdoor, coldish game. They didn't really do that badly in that game, so we will see. I mean, Miami did play a playoff game in Buffalo not too long ago, but it was when Tua was hurt like a couple of years ago, and it was with what's his name there? Skylar Thompson, I think, was the quarterback in that one. And Miami actually played really well in that game. And that was in a cold weather environment too, but it was not with Tua. But still, man, for all these reasons, yeah. And I think Miami, at the very least, they have momentum here too. I mean, they've won a couple of easy games against the Raiders and New England as a home favorite in both of those. So I think the momentum is just going to continue for this game. I expect a focused effort from Miami, but the crux of this is that it's a sandwich spot, a huge sandwich spot that Green Bay is in. So give me the Miami Dolphins, and that is going to do it for me, man. An hour on Thanksgiving morning. College basketball starts in 20 minutes, and this Bears-Lions game kicks off in a little, about 50 minutes from now. So enjoy it, everybody. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Got a lot more people in the chat than I expected on Thanksgiving morning. Don't hang out with me, man. Go be with your families. Have some good food. Go enjoy spending time with your family, man, and enjoy the good food. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. And my plays one more time are college basketball, BYU -3.5, UC-Irvine -10.5, and in the NFL, Thanksgiving, Thursday night, Miami +3.5. Those are the three plays today. Let's do it. Let's win some money as we feast. Let's feast on the books as we also feast on turkey. Let's get it done. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Tower Gang Toad. Go follow the Tower Gang Podcast, of course. Follow me on Twitter, obviously, Tower Gang Toad. But follow the Tower Gang Podcast, patreon.com/Tower Gang if you want to give us some support. And you get extra content, man. You get bonus content, live pre-show, live post-show. The post-show last night was one of the most insane that we've had, maybe the most insane. It was really unbelievable. If you want offensive content, you got to watch that post show, man. It was crazy. There was a lot going on in that post show. Last night we gave thanks as well. We had a Thanksgiving episode last night, although it wasn't really Thanksgiving themed until we talked about what we're thankful for at the very end. But go check that episode out anyway, and throw us some support if you want the pre-show and post-show. Like I said, patreon.com/Tower Gang. That's going to do it for me, man. Let's have a good one. And I'll be back with Friday. It's going to be a packed card tomorrow, man, for Black Friday. Most of the sports are in action. And then we got Saturday rivalry week in college football, and another Sunday NFL slate where I will have at least probably exactly two more plays in the NFL. It's going to do it for me, man. Let's have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Peace.